People are going to hate it. So first of all, you will never own a property. Forget it.
When you say money isn't money, it's not yours, it's not in the bank, what does that mean?
Can I get some money, please? Can I have permission to use my money? That's what happens in the bank. And I said, no. They said, well, the number you want, I can't give it. And it was like, I think it was 15,000 pounds. So during COVID, they printed 60% of the supply of the money, right? In literally no time. Unless you invest into assets, your money or your time will get stolen. So that means your money is devaluing at that speed, 8 to 10% every single year. So now you have to think about it.
Welcome back to the show. Today, I'm joined with Mr. M, who's hosted some of the big names in the Bitcoin space, and he's part of the Daily Hodl Show with Da Vinci as well. Maurizio, before we dive in, would you be able to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, thank you, Finn. Super happy to be on your show. Really glad. About me, so I was born and raised in Italy, Lake Como, the northern side, but I've been traveling for the past 30 years. I have decided to come to Dubai and do absolutely nothing. Funny how it turned out. Like we were discussing off camera. The idea was to come and just chill, but I figured that I learned super soon that it's not for me. So I'm now doing my show. Like you said, I work with Da Vinci. We have a course, which is nice, on Bitcoin, of course. And I have my podcast, which is my, I guess, retirement. The way that I figure to give and also get. So it's my way to enjoy my retirement life. It makes sense.
And I always like to start here. Was there a moment where you really realized something about money was wrong and just didn't make sense to you anymore?
I would say wonderful question. The answer is yes, and multiple times. And each time has gone into a different place. There was a phase where, believe it or not, I actually hated money. I had money is horrible because I didn't have any, right? So the first reaction was to resent it. Only horrible people have money. Money is problems. It doesn't give you happiness and all this kind of stuff. So rejection was the first time I discovered money in that way. I grew up in a family which we didn't have much. My mom was a single mother and I was literally rubbing toilets in hotels. So it's a bit tricky. Then I realized that money is not a problem. I mean, money is a problem, but that's a different rabbit hole, which led me to the other side of the story, which is, hey, what is money anyway? So why I hated something I didn't know what it was? Because I was brought up or taught or educated that money is in the bank and is fiat, right? We didn't have the euro, we had the lira. This, how old am I? But whatever. Back in the days, Italy and all the other European countries, they had their own currencies down then. Now you can see they have the euro, but it was different back in the days. So I was under the impression that money was fiat in the bank. Moving to Dubai and kind of changing my lifestyle, I did another level of digging and I figured out myself that I had no idea, A, what I was doing, and B, what money was, because I believe without having my conspiracy hat on, there is a reason why we have been taught that money is what it is, right? Because you don't want people to be free and empowered and independent. You want people to be dependent and less free and more controlled. So I do understand if I was king, as they say in France, if moi président, if I was the president, I would rather have someone I can control. So I understand where they're coming from. Now, the thing is, when internet was invented and or discovered, that opened up a huge opportunity for you to get information elsewhere. So without wanting to do it, I think they gave an opportunity to people to understand what is money. That's why I think it's super important for people. And maybe Bitcoin is not the answer. I say this all the time. But the question, what is money for you, should be a massive priority for anyone in their life. Because if you don't understand what that is, you are wasting time in everything else, if it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've heard you say that saying loads of times. And I myself am the same believer. And the first time that I posted it on my Instagram saying money isn't money, it's not yours and it's not in the bank, people replied saying, you've lost the plot. What's going on? What happened to Finn? So from your point of view with that phrase, what does that mean to you? When you say money isn't money, it's not yours, it's not in the bank, what does that mean?
Another beautiful question. I think people don't want to know the truth because that will force them to think, okay, well, what do you mean? So that means I'm doing something wrong because you said something there. I want to know what it is, right? An example could be, I used to be a heavy smoker. I used to smoke a lot of cigarettes, like 2 or 3 packs a day for a long time. And one day I said, no, enough. I don't want to smoke anymore because I'm killing myself and it's not healthy, right? So I stopped. And all my friends are like, oh, come on, man, have another one. It's not a big deal. Why? Because I was reminding them they could also stop. So they hated the fact that I could have stopped, but they can't. So they want to take you back in. It makes sense, right? They want to drag you down, metaphorically speaking. So whenever you say money, is not in the bank, and it's not yours, you are breaking someone's reality, saying, ooh, okay, that's wise. So then I don't know what money is, right? Well, I say these three things because, well, first of all, it's not my saying. I borrow it, God knows, from someone. I don't remember, but I don't want to take credit. Someone said before I did. Well, money is not fiat, right? So we think money is fiat, or let me rephrase it. Fiat is a form of money. It's not a good form of money, but you could say it's money, but it's not the best money, but it's money, I guess. It's not yours because the moment you deposit it in the bank takes it. In fact, I've seen on my own skin multiple times. I was in London, for example. I was living in the UK for a long time, and I got married in Greece. So I remember going to the bank, which I shall not name, and say, hey, I would like to take some cash because I'm going in Greece and I would like to pay some people locally. So can I get some money, please? Can I have permission to use my money? That's what happens in the bank. And I said, no. They said, well, the number you want, I can't give it. And it was like, I think it was £15,000. So it wasn't a lot of money per se. I said, no, I can't give you £15,000 because there's a limit. And if I give you so much cash, then what are you going to do with it? So I want to know what you're spending it. It could be anti-laundering laws. And so they said, no. Long story short, I couldn't. That's shows me that it's not mine, right? Because if it was mine, they would have said, yeah, of course, it's yours, take it. No. I can only give you this much, right? And the third point is the bank doesn't even have it because they, God knows what, do what with it, because they invest into something or they leverage God knows what. So the moment you deposit the money in the bank, they grab it to do whatever they want to invest it, right? Even if you don't make any returns, of course, they take it, right? That's why there is even like a fantastic joke about it. If everyone would go to the bank and say, give me my money, they don't actually physically have them because they hypothecate them, they use them for God knows do what. So those three things are a bit tricky because whenever you say them, you are breaking a bunch of pillars that people have in their lives. What do you mean it's not money? I mean, I have $10,000 and in 20 years from now, it's going to be $10,000. Yes, but what about the purchasing power? Like whatever you can buy now with those money, in 20 years from now, you won't be able to buy half of it. But the number is the same. That's the illusion, right? Because you will have still the same amount of chips or monopoly money, whatever you want to label it, fiat in this case, but the purchasing power will be next to nothing. In fact, I can prove you, I'm only 50 years old. When I was a kid and I was going to church or whatever, different places to do different things, with so little, I could buy so much. And nowadays, I go down here and buy a Starbucks coffee for like freaking $7. $7. That was my, I don't know, 6 months allowance in the 70s. You know what I mean? So, and let's not forget that during COVID, they printed 60% of the supply of the money in literally no time. So inflation is real. That's why, and they say it's 2% a year. Yeah, whatever. It's more like 8 if you are conservative. So that means 8% a year. That means in 10 years, that's 80%. So whatever you have in the bank, 80% in 10 years is gone. And like I said, the illusion is the number is the same. 10,000, 5,000, 1,000, 100,000. Purchasing power is not. And you can look around yourself and you can go into any shopping mall or any supermarket, buy anything from a soda to some meats, vegetarians or whatever, buy some veggies and fruits. And you can see if you compare those prices with even 5 years ago, that there is a problem there. So when you say it's not money, it's not in the bank, and it's not yours, you are signaling that you have done some sort of a path throughout awakening, you could say, in these topics specifically. And like I said, Bitcoin doesn't have to be the answer, but you should ask yourself, what am I doing with my time? Because let's not forget that we use money in exchange of time. Like I go to work, right? So if you don't want to think about money, think about time. Besides all taxes and all that kind of shenanigans, which it changes from country to country, you're getting paid, you're getting rewarded because you put time and energy and sweat equity and you're getting money back for your effort. But there is a problem there because unless you invest into assets, your money or your time will get stolen.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Before we came over to Australia, the local shop where we used to get our groceries from, me and my partner had a joke that we'd go and the minimum that we'd come out with, whether it was just a tiny bag, was £30. Like we could go in for a dozen eggs and we'd come out and it's £30 no matter what. And that leads to some other interesting conversations that I've had with people in the UK when they're complaining about prices going up. They're complaining about inflation, even if perhaps they don't actually know what inflation is. But you've just said there that there's been 60% of the money printed since COVID. When you say printed money, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, that's a good point, by the way. People don't know what inflation is. And I didn't know what inflation was either. You have to go through a journey, right? And learn yourself because nobody's telling you. Because why? Why would they say the printing money is bad? Who has the press control the world, right? So that's how it works. Decide to inflate the market. So they produce and literally print. The central bank, in this case, it was the US. In the span of 6 months, they printed 60% of the supply, which is nuts. It means they diluted everything. Whatever you have in the bank has been dropped into the market fresh, like there's nothing. And sometimes they give you the illusion, I'm going to give you a check. In this case, the US, I think it was $1,200. Nuts, man. Honestly, what do you think about it? It's crazy. I think if there was an alien race landing, and maybe there is, I don't know, they'd go, what's going on there, man? Honestly, are these people crazy? Someone actually made a TikTok or whatever, a joke, dressed as a blue, I don't know if you've seen it, it's a blue alien. It's the same guy who talks to himself in 2 different outfits. I'm going to send it to you. It's amazing. And I'm like, oh my God, he's right. We look like lunatics, honestly. So there is a bunch of people, they have a press and they print money. And by the way, fun fact, it's never going to be your money because whenever you open or you look at a bill, it says property of the United States, in this case, the dollar. So they are telling you on the piece of paper, which is worthless, by the way, because it's not backed by anything. It's not even yours. So they are telling you, you take the note, here's your money. Well, wait, this is property of the United States. So it's not mine. And if I print it, I go to jail. If they print it, all good. It's a scam. It's crazy. But then if you start questioning money, people think you are a nutter because like, what do you mean you question money? Money has been always money, which is not true because it changed through time, right? Before it was salt and then shells, and then it's gone to golden coins and silver coins. So it did change through history, but we only remember we are golden fish. We only remember what happened last night, right? So fun fact, the United States of America has been a reserve currency only for a certain amount of time before we had other places, right? So it changes consistently. And again, the tricky part is you have to embrace this journey yourself. And it's kind of funny to see how people react to it. Like whenever I started my channel, I've done something successfully for a very long time. And people are like, dude, have you lost your mind? You've gone to talk about Bitcoin? What? I mean, what happened to the 30 years career you built? And now you talk about what? This guy has gone nuts. Why he's doing it? And he's now saying that the government cannot be trusted and you want to separate money from state and they're printing dollars. What's wrong with this guy? Because they don't want to go into that journey because when you enter the rabbit hole, you realize that there is a learning process you have to go through, right? And people hate changing because they think, okay, wait, so that means I've done for however long, 20 years, 10 years, 50 years, something completely off, and now I have to correct it. In fact, if you remember, I'm sure you've seen The Matrix, the guy, I think it was Cypher, he wanted to go back and say, hey, put me back as a singer or a famous person. I don't want to learn about The Matrix. Just put me back in. Let me eat meat every day and halas, as we say in Dubai. All good, right? Just put me back in. Ignorance is a bliss. I want to be ignorant and happy. And that's a choice. Hey, I don't judge. I don't care. But I want to wake up. I don't want to go back into the Matrix. I want to wake up from the Matrix. So then you have to face the fact that I didn't know this. Okay, that's interesting. So how can I change it? What can I do to take control back? Or what can I do to make my effort worthy? So, because at the end of the day, it's always your fault and your responsibility because we like to point fingers. It's the government, it's my neighbor, it's my boss, it's my wife or my husband, but it's always on you. So when you realize that there is something you need to go through, a journey, a point you want to understand better or something, I think you must take responsibility and say, hey, I want to be able to live a decent life, save in a good way. And like I said, I don't want to pound on Bitcoin all the time. Do whatever you want, as long as you acknowledge that money, as we know it today, fiat, has a massive problem. In fact, wealthy people, they don't have money, that type of money. Like Michael Saylor says, they are fiat poor, right? There is a reason why he says it, because fiat is not the best money that we can have. So I think it's your responsibility. You owe it to yourself, to your family, to your children, if you have any, or to your legacy, whatever you want to label it, to your pets. Even I have cats. I owe it to my cats to learn about money so that I can sustain a life for them. And like you said, the issue is the people don't want to open that door. And what I meant with printing, I literally, I mean it. Like they've literally printed a bunch of paper notes, right? Because they wanted to save the situation. Okay, how do we save it? Well, there is no money left. Well, we want to make some, because at the end of the day, it's not like 71. In 71, they decided to stop pegging the gold with the dollars. So they couldn't have done it, because in order for them to print money, they should have acquired gold, right? The gold standard was called, because how much gold do you have? This much. Okay, good. This is the amount of fiat notes I can issue backed by gold, which is better money than fiat, by the way. Okay, now that is gone. In 71, Nixon chopped it. So then if you want to print, central bank, which doesn't even respond to the president, by the way, they are independent. They just go brrr and print, right? No matter how much gold they have, which, by the way, that's a different topic, because inside the cavalry, that nobody knows how much gold there is, if there is any left. But that's a completely different story. So nothing is backing it up. But you could say America is backing it up, but it's not good enough for me. Like, I don't want someone who wakes up one day and he goes, maybe we should print a little bit more. Well, you're devaluing my money because you are injecting more supply in the market. So you are scamming everyone, in fact, right? Because there is no other explanation. So the whole thing is built to designed to be controlled by who has the printer, right? So you can save yourself. Yes, it's on you to study. Yes, it's on you to learn. It's on you to react to this. And it's on you. It's your responsibility to say, okay, well, I don't want to be part of this game. So then I opt out. Like Lynn Alden says, opt out, Doesn't matter how you opt out. You can do it in so many different ways, but awareness of the problem is the first issue. It's like, imagine you have a cage around you. You don't see the cage. Well, I want to be free. Well, okay, in order to be free, you have to see and acknowledge the cage. Okay, I have a cage. Problem. How do I solve it? It's a consequence of the fact that you acknowledge I have a cage. So money is broken. Perfect. So how do I fix it? There's probably millions of different ways, but you have to acknowledge the money is broken in the first place, if it makes sense.
Yeah, and that's what I always say to people is the hardest bit of this whole process isn't understanding the problem. It's not, like you said, there's multiple options, but it's not adopting Bitcoin. It's not opting out. It's accepting that everything that you knew previously was wrong and letting your ego get aside and actually going to then do the work. And you started talking about the question I was going to ask you next, but it's super interesting because my generation definitely hasn't experienced a world like this, and my parents' generation, most of them still haven't. But you mentioned 1971, and you also mentioned the dollar being worthless, not being pegged to anything. Like I said, my generation most of them don't know what that means because they've never lived in a world where the dollar has been pegged to gold. So would you mind going into a bit more detail around what happened in 1971 and how that affects us today?
Yeah, wonderful question. By the way, I've not lived that myself. I was born in the late 70s, right? So kind of a little bit later what they've done there. But like I said, to keep it super simple, before 71, before Nixon decided to rule a different way of managing the world reserve money, because remember, the dollar is the world reserve for now. It's going to change, yes. When? I don't know, but it's going to collapse because that's always the case, right? History repeats all the time. It won't be the same story, but it will rhyme a lot. So what was happening was, like I said, in order for the US to print money, they had to back it up with gold, saying, hey, I can push out more money because in my bank I save gold, which is the real reason why I pegged it to the notes, which the notes themselves, like back in Rome, back in the days, whenever I was giving you a golden coin, the value was in the coin itself. Like you could take in the gold and melt it and you left the value of the transaction itself. Then issuing paper, how does it work? Like the paper is worthless. So I have to back it up and say, well, because I have so much gold, I can print so much fiat, right? And it was kind of working okay, you could say, because there was a peg, at least. Say, hey, I can't print more money because I don't have enough gold. So I need to find a way to acquire more gold, to grow my reserve, to then print more paper. And even though I was never a fan of the idea, it was much better than where we are now, because now it's just completely bananas. They don't even have to check. There is no gold. Like the gold is gone. The peg is gone. I mean, they have the gold. That's what they say. But it's not connected to the fiat themselves. It's completely detached. Fun fact, I think Italy has one of the largest gold supply, and yet, well, there's a euro there, but whatever. So it doesn't even matter anymore. It's like, okay, I have some gold because back in the days, I have a history of X, Y, and Z, but it's not connected to the fiat itself. So it will be interesting. I don't think they will ever go back, because imagine if you are the guy who's behind the printer. And now you say, actually, you know what? instead of printing when I want, we're going to print according to the gold quantity we have. Why would you do that? Like, you would shoot on your own feet. Like, you want to print whenever you want to control the supply, 100%. And by the way, fun fact on this, we've seen some reaction on the market, like China and Russia started to transact and buy oil. Another way to call the dollar is called petrodollar, because until a few months ago, any transaction regarding oil, crude oil, was done in dollars, hence petrodollar. But we've seen 6 months ago, starting Russia and China in buying and selling oil in other currencies. So they are signaling, hey, whatever you're doing over there, printing so much, because remember, I have your shit. Sorry, I have your stuff. So if you print it, you are damaging me also, because in my bank, I have your reserve. So if you put more in the market, you are making me, like, you are damaging me somewhat. So what happened? They said, okay, well, we don't do that anymore, meaning they can print out of proportion without worrying about anything else. And they say, oh no, the dollar is backed by the United States. What does it mean? Like, how do I redeem value with a note? Okay, there is an agreement somewhere, but you've seen inflation has gone out of control. Like, if you look around in prices, oh my goodness, like my grandparents went on honeymoon with, it would be probably today, conversion between currencies, it would probably be like a couple of €100. They've done 2 weeks around Europe, right? Fancy hotel, fancy dinners, 14 days. I mean, now stop a little bit and say, oh, €200, what can I do now with €200? I don't even know. You can barely buy this microphone. Somewhere, something has gone south, right? Because how do we fix it? And like you said, the problem here is that it's not happening immediately. Inflation is a slow killer, right? It doesn't happen overnight. So it happens over decades, 10, 15, 20 years. So you don't have enough time to react to it. It's like when you smoke a cigarette, you don't have damage to the lungs immediately. You have cancer maybe in 20 years, 50 years from that day. So it's killing you slowly. And I think money has the same problem. Or opportunity, if you want to be an optimistic, it happens over a long amount of time, 10, 15, 20. I mean, we are accelerating it aggressively because, the more they print, the more the problem is going to increase. And funny fact, the CPI, I call it CPI, they say 2% a year, 3% inflation. Dude, it's not 3%. It's, like I said, 8% if you want to be conservative. It's more likely 10, right? So that means your money is devaluing at that speed, 8 to 10% every single year. So now you have to think about, okay, so what can I do to make sure that my fiat grows at least 10% a year to go even, right? If this thing is eating my 10% a year and I'm getting paid in fiat, what can I do to get even? Well, to get even, you have to invest in something that's going to give you at least 10% a year. Then you will be even. Then your purchasing power will be the same. So that's the game. The game is, how much do I protect myself? Because whatever I'm getting paid with, it's paper money, basically. It's literally paper money. And then they are printing more and more every year. So what do I have to play and make sure that I stay consistent, right? And this is going to open a different rabbit hole, because then you can go down into different assets speculation. And of course, if you do so, you have your own conclusion, even though I think Bitcoin is the answer, but that's my personal answer. But regardless of that, gold bugs, silver bugs, people they like to invest into assets, they all share the same enemy, which is fiat erosion. You could call it inflation, right? So to go back to your question, in 71, they simply removed the link between the amount of gold reserve they had in the bank, which was connected to the amount of money they could able to print, right? So by chopping that line, well, then it's just free for all, right? So I don't need to have gold backing my money. I just need to print whenever I want. Hence, it's gone bananas. If you actually check the M2 supply, so how much money there is in the market, you would see that from 71, 72, 75 has gone bananas, because now there is no connection between the gold they have and the money they print.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fiat is just losing value year after year because of this. And to tie back into something you said earlier about the wealthy not actually having fiat and having their money in assets. And like you've said this whole time, whatever that is up to you to make your final decision on. For us, it's Bitcoin. But one thing I want to ask you your opinion of is, my generation are programmed and taught, and in my opinion, from a loving place, because that's what worked for our grandparents, that's what worked for our parents, was property. For our generation, my generation, to save up for a deposit to then get on the property ladder, they have to save and they think they have to save in fiat. Can you talk a bit about your opinion around property versus other assets in building wealth, and how saving for a deposit, how you would traditionally, is actually maybe not the best idea?
Yeah, people are going to hate it, but I have a strong opinion on the matter. So, first of all, you will never own a property. Forget it. It's never going to be yours. Never. I'll tell you why. Because someone else is going to have to agree that it's yours. So, for instance, if you would stop paying taxes, try, say, oh, I own my house. No, you don't. Because the day you will stop paying taxes, it's going to be gone. I'll give you another example. There is a lot of people here in Dubai from all around the planet. And sometimes, without going into much details, there is a conflict. So two countries go to war, for example. Okay, then I had properties in country X, and a war happened, and my country has gone into war or has been attacked, for example, and that's it. My property is gone. Not demolished by the war, confiscated, right? That's another example. They will take it whenever they want. If your home is into a intersection, they want to build a road, they will find a way to take it, right? They will take it because it doesn't belong to you. You have the illusion that you own it, but you don't. And if something happens to you personally, look at some influencer like Andrew Tate, for example, they confiscated everything, like gone. Okay. So that shows it's not yours to begin with. Okay. But let's stay back, because most people will never have that problem. They will pay taxes and they won't do anything shady per se. So they had their own house. Why buying a house is a better idea? Well, first of all, it's a liability, not an asset. So if you don't know what that means, I would encourage you to read a book from Kiyosaki called Rich Dad and Poor Dad. Fantastic book who changed my life completely. So if you own a property and you live into the property and you pay a mortgage, that's a liability. The difference is something which is an asset is going to give you money, and something which is called a liability is going to cost you money. You don't want to use your savings to buy a liability. Actually, it's the other way around. You want to use your savings to buy assets. They give you money to buy liabilities. So this is called cash flow. And again, Kiyosaki speaks about it, amazing. And it's a fantastic way to see life. So what rich people do, they invest money in assets, and the assets are giving them cash flow or other money, right? Then with those money, you can do whatever you want. Now, by the way, mortgage in French means that penalty, literally, or something around those lines, which means that any government would like you to stay there, be slaved, pay taxes, and be attached to your home, because they will squeeze you way more than they can normally, right? Because having someone who never moves, always behaves, stays there, it's fantastic. Like I said, imagine you're the alien who comes down and goes, those people are going to work for 50, 60, 80 years to pay for a home that is going to be never theirs. That's what they are doing, man. This is crazy. People don't understand, but whenever because you have to pay rent. Yeah, of course, but do the math. Okay, first of all, when you pay your rent, you're free to go wherever you want. You don't owe anything to it. I'm renting here. Tomorrow I want to go. I just email my landlord, I'm out. I might lose my deposit, but I'm out. Okay. The roof breaks, not my problem. The windows are leaking, whatever, not my problem. There is a problem in the bathroom. I call my landlord. He pays for the maintenance. So not my house. I don't care. I just live into it. I don't pay any taxes on top of it, because I don't own, you have the illusion of owning it, but whatever, that's a separate conversation. So it doesn't cost me anything besides my rent, and I pay a service. Tomorrow, the company XYZ offers me a fantastic job in Dubai. I don't pay any taxes. I want to go. Well, if I had a mortgage under my name, that won't be convenient. Oh, no, and you know how many people have, and I know so many, because the dream of owning a home in the UK was heavy, right? So lots of my friends, finally, I've been saving for 15 years and now I invested into buying a home. And I'm like, okay, dude, you just made so much mistakes in what you just said, because one, you weren't saving in dry vehicles. Two, you just bought a liability. And three, you're stuck for life, because the house you buy at 20, 25, 30, if you can afford it, is not going to be the same house you want to live in when you're 50, because things are going to change, right? You might have a family, you might have kids. Oh, but I can sell and rebuy. Yeah, good luck with that. You know how long it takes to sell a home? Not even mentioning the market, the volatility, and all that kind of stuff. So buying a house, it is literally financial suicide. That's my opinion, and people can disagree. Fine, I don't mind. I don't own any, and if I had a home of property, I would sell the property. First of all, it would be mine, but if I have the illusion of owning a property, I would buy Bitcoin with it. Why? Because it's superior. I can take it with me everywhere I go. if stored properly, right? Maybe we can do a comparison between gold, Bitcoin, and owning real estate, but fundamentally, that was the idea that maybe my parents or my grandfathers had to fight inflation. Say, hey, money is destroying itself. What do I do? Well, I buy a house. At least I live under it, and there is a utility there. So I think that was the emergency response on a problem. But then if you dig deeper, you will find out that that's actually not a problem. It's not a solution. It's actually it causes another problem, because it's going to limit you. It's going to keep you under a very expensive mortgage that you have to pay. And then, by the way, don't forget, you have to remortgage every whatever, depending on the contract. So you pay an interest on the bank, the money you borrowed. And now in the UK, I'm sure many other places, they've done multi-generational mortgage, which is fucking madness. So I'm going to go and get a mortgage that my son is going to pay. Okay? Nuts. By the way, in the UK still, because in many other countries it's the same, different percentages. If I die and my son wants to inherit my home, 40% taxes, 40, okay? So I go to work my entire life, I go to the bank, I get a mortgage, I pay double my home, I die and my son has to pay 40%. I mean, Jesus, what else do you want me to do? Like, doesn't make any sense. Not mentioning all the taxes I paid, all the repairs I've done. The roof every 10, 15 years goes in the bin, you have to redo it. The elevator, the pool you have to clean, the garden, the thing that breaks in the bathroom, you want to redecorate. There is so much money that you're going to waste into this thing. And the funny thing is, once you've done it at your taste, it doesn't mean that people are going to buy it. The value, the perception of value you have on your home, oh, my home is amazing. It's worth $1 million. Yeah, okay, but who's going to give it to you? I have an example. I have a million examples, but I have friends, they inherited homes from their grandparents and their families. Oh, my grandma home is so cute. It's worth $500,000. Yeah, but the market is not going to give it. I don't care if this is your grandma home. I just look into the market. She wasn't my grandma, so there is no value there. You know what I mean? Like, it's so difficult to have a precise number. The market goes up and down. Of course, there is a massive oscillation there like anywhere else. But when it comes to homes, it's very personal, right? And I wouldn't do it if I had a friend and I'm going to give you the chills, but I orange peeled a bunch of friends in 2017, 2013, 2014. And they messaged me not long ago saying, hey, dude, thank you so much for the Bitcoin. You know, I was able to do my dream, reach my dream and buy my home with a mortgage now because I sold all the Bitcoin. I'm like, so you sold an asset to buy a liability? Not judging here, but it's a fucking terrible idea, man. Like, honestly, why would you do it? Like, why would you do that? And by the way, if that's your dream, if you want to have a family home to, yeah, go for it, do it, it's up to you. But that's financial suicide, right? As long as you know, hey, I'm making a mistake and I know, I'm aware, which means I will correct it, or maybe I'll have a saving in Bitcoin to counterpart my bad decision. That's okay. But most people don't even know how to manage money. That's the same problem we were discussing earlier, right? So saving money, or even the concept of saving in general. No one is teaching us how to save. And people say, yeah, but I don't have money anyway. Well, you can change it. It's a math. It's an Excel sheet. How much money you take from your job or your whatever, how much money you spend. Easy. Whatever you can save, invest it into good stuff. Not buying a mortgage, not a good idea. That's my opinion, but it's up to you. Even if that was an option, at least you are doing something. I mean, you are damaging your finances, but at least you have an illusion. So it's interesting when I speak about mortgages and homes and owners and all that kind of stuff, people have a very strong opinion because they've done, but I've done it. I have many friends, they purchased a home. I've done my investment. Dude, that's not an investment. That's a financial suicide, right? But they get very emotional. No, you don't understand. It's my kids, it's my home, because they want to justify it, right? Because yeah. So, and like I said, people want different things. We are different characters. Some people want to have a house, and people want to have Bitcoin. Up to you. But before you buy a 40 years mortgage with a 10% deposit, which is an absolute madness, I think you should look into it and see how much money it's going to cost you in repairs, in taxes, depending on where you live, the market. Is it a good time to buy? Yes, no. For example, now in Dubai is very much inflated. So even if I wanted to buy, I wouldn't buy now because I would pay 30% more, right? There's also a seasonality there. So it's very important that before you go into a default, buying homes is always a good idea. Well, no, that's a really bad thing to say. Like in some cases, you could say, buying a home is a good idea. And if you do, please use a trust. So don't put it under your name. So if something happens, they can't take it away from you. So there are things you can do to protect yourself, right? And I know I'm kind of paranoid in here, but I've seen a lot of stuff in the past 2 or 3 years in Dubai specifically. But I was like, damn, like, thank God I've never bought a home myself, because if I would have done it, this and this and this would have happened, right? Plus, you are boxing yourself into a financial prison, right? Oh no, I can't go on holiday. You know how many stories of people I have in my life? They go, oh, dude, I can't come with you in Bali for a weekend because I have a mortgage. Well, then you can't live your life. You are you're trapped into something for 40, 50 years. I don't think it's a good idea. I like to be free and fluid, right? And by the way, good luck in selling it. It's not like something you can do overnight. It's not liquid liability. You can't just sell it overnight. There is a lot to consider. So the area might change, and oh my God, your life might change. You'll have kids, maybe. It's a big decision that most people they just do it because they think, oh, everyone has done it, so yeah, it makes sense, right? Yeah, everyone is doing it, so it must be good. Well, that's not necessarily true. Like, there is a lot of examples, without going into details, that when everyone is doing it, you might want to think about it. It doesn't matter how many people have done it. It's a stupid idea. If now I see people jumping off my balcony, I'm not going to freaking jump off the balcony. I'm just going to watch them and think, what the fuck is wrong with these people? You know what I mean? So having some awareness to begin with always helps. And then if you do your research, if you study, if you read, and then you want to do it, okay, good, do it. But at least do it with awareness. Don't take it as a default good investment decision. And maybe for some people it is, right? Maybe if you have a cash cow, that could be a good example. If you have an asset who gives you cash, then with that cash flow, you can buy something because you have a cash flow. And it doesn't matter what happens, that cash flow is going to cover the expense. But if the cash flow is your job, well, that's not cash flow, that's an income, which is different. Again, Kiyosaki has an interesting chart and explains it really well. So before you jump into a 50 years debt, you should owe yourself to study and see, okay, what is going to do to me for the next 50 years? Am I going to be okay, financially free? Am I going to be responsible for this? Because if you do look into it, you will realize quickly, unless you are in one of those particular scenarios, that buying a home is financial suicide.
It's fascinating to hear you explain that, because you've basically just put my brain out into the world, which is amazing. And Robert Kiyosaki's multiple books, but Rich Dad Poor Dad was the same for me, the first book that really started making things make sense to me. And again, it comes from love and it comes from care from the people that are telling you to save for a deposit and buy a house, because that's what they did. And that, to an extent, worked for some people when housing was fair value, in my opinion. I think a lot of my generation are actually in a strong position without knowing it. For those that have been saving for a house, if they can start weighing up the opportunity cost before they pull the trigger, and they're sitting on some capital ready to deploy into a deposit, that if Bitcoin starts coming into their world, they're sitting on some money ready to go. Have you thought about my generation that are close to buying a house but haven't yet pulled the trigger? If they can understand Bitcoin before pulling the trigger, they're also in a really strong position.
Yeah, that's a good point. And by the way, I want to pound on again on the fact that there is no one recipe for everybody, right? So for some people, that buying a home is going to be a good idea. I don't think I can generalize and say, I think most of the time, I believe, that's my opinion, it's financial suicide, but there is going to be a scenario where it makes sense for them, at least. And at the end of the day, it's your life, do whatever you want with it, right? There's even a saying that, you can take the horse to the lake, but you cannot make the horse drink the water. And Gary Cardone added another piece, which is when you turn around, the horse is going to piss in the water, which is, I thought it was funny, because that's exactly how it works. Yeah, having said that, it's all a matter of perspective. I think making money, funny enough, or inherited money, that's easy, honestly. Keep money, though, that's a different story. Like, nowadays, making money, I don't even think it's difficult. Honestly, if you put your head down and if you say, okay, I want to make money, you can find a way to make money. Like, compared to the 50s and the 40s, imagine opening a business now. I mean, you can have a website, up and running for like 50 quid. Back in the 50s, you had to have a store, a shop, license. I mean, the amount of blockers we reduced with digital in general, super fast. You can reach people in China, Japan, Asia, from Australia or Italy or whatever, Spain. So you have a global market. You can up and run in no time. You can learn from YouTube alone. Jesus, the amount of knowledge on YouTube alone is just worth millions of dollars a day. So there's no excuse. If you want to make money, you can find a way to make money. Now, keep money though, different story. So yes, there is an opportunity there, but I guarantee you, and we discussed this off camera earlier, that only a few will manage to keep their pocket full of money, right? And the money you can put in asterisks. Even it could be a bunch of properties, right? I've seen with my own eyes families starting off with a stupid amount of wealth. And in 3 or 4 generations, nothing, right? Everything has gone to pieces because they don't know how to manage it. Again, it goes back to the same question. How do I manage money? How do I keep my wealth in check? What is money? How do I leave my comfort zone? How do I grow? How do I learn how to store value, how to store my time? Even forget the growing part, which is just keep it, How do I preserve what I have? It's a really difficult mission. And like I told you in the beginning of the conversation, if we could magically distribute to everyone on the planet the same amount of money, which is, let's say, $20 million, I am 1000% convinced that in 20 months or 2 years or whatever, 80% will lose it all because they don't know how to manage it. They will buy liabilities. They will buy Lamborghinis, Rolexes. Some of them, they could be good investments, yes, but most of them are going to be yacht parties with expensive dinners or expensive clothing. They have no value, liabilities. So the first way to be, I guess, aware is to recognize, how do I keep my money? And then once you master how to keep it, you can try to grow it, right? But you do it step by step. And the opportunity you just described, I can see it. There's going to be people, they will get Bitcoins in 20 years from, they will murder them. They will spend them in stupid things, right? Because why? Nobody's going to tell them how to manage their money. No one. That's the most important part. So the money is going to go back in the hands of a few that they know how to buy assets, right? Because at the end of the day, that's all about what it is. So if you have asset, you will collect money. If you have liability, you will spend money. So most of those guys or girls that would get the grandma Bitcoins, dude, they're gone. As soon as they are 21, they'll buy a sport car or a nice boob job or whatever it is, man. It's going to be wasted. So the most important part is learn. You have to go and learn how to manage, how to grow, how to keep your wealth. By the way, I'm not against selling Bitcoin. I do sell Bitcoin on a daily basis because I live into the Bitcoin standard. I have next to no fiat under my name, so I have to. But I can guarantee you that I'm aware of my exchange. Hey, I'm doing this now. Do I want to do it really? Yes, no. Okay, maybe I'll wait. Actually, I have to go to the dentist. Okay, well then, I don't care how much Bitcoin is worth. My teeth are hurting. I have to sell some to get my teeth fixed, right? So it's all a situational thing. But yes, there is an opportunity. I agree with you. But the downside or the other side of the coin would be many, they won't be able to manage it. There is even a statistic there. I don't know if you heard of it, but it's a lottery winner. I think there is a formula. I'm not entirely sure of the numbers, but it goes something like this. In 24 months, 60% plus of all the winners, they go broke. There you have it. So why this happens? It might be 30 months and 70%. I don't remember exactly, but it was incredibly high. I think in the 70% in 2 or 3 years, along those numbers. So that shows that we don't know squat about managing money. And even if you've been given an opportunity like a lottery winning situation, well then, bye-bye. It's all gone. Why? What have you done with this money? I went out in street bars and yacht parties in trips, and I didn't invest any, and there it's gone. And this is going to be the same problem that we will see on those people getting back in 20 years from now, where Bitcoin will be, I don't know where, but higher than now for sure. And they'll spend it in nonsense.
Yeah, no, it's a great point to make. And it really highlights what we talked about at the start of the podcast, where you've first got to accept that everything that you knew about money is wrong, but then you've really got to go and do the research yourself. And you've really got to learn what money is, how to look after your money, and then ultimately how to grow your money. But people aren't going to teach you that because it's not in the powers that be's best interest to teach you that, because they want that money to come straight back to them.
Exactly. Super well said. It is your responsibility. And sorry to jump in. The most interesting thing about Bitcoin is it's on you. Like, it's going to empower you to learn all these lessons and to learn how to manage it. No one is going to come and save you. Like, you can say, I mean, you have the option to save yourself, but no one's going to come and just throw you a carrot. If they do that, it's because they have an agenda or milk you after, right? Because no one is going to save you, not the government, for sure. So if anything, they want to save themselves. So Bitcoin is the perfect ticket for you to say, okay, it's in my hands, it's my responsibility. And you can tell when you speak to someone who's into the Bitcoin network, and I mean it, not someone who has a fiat job and they buy, which is fine, by the way. I'm not judging. I'm just saying there is a different depth in understanding. Whenever you are all in Bitcoin and you are, your coins are in your hands, you have a different awareness. It's me. I need to have a plan. If I messed up, I lose everything, as opposed to someone who has, I don't know, $200 in Bitcoin or Solana, whatever. There's a very different story there. It's like a gladiator in the arena versus someone else who watches the fight, if you know what I mean. So I'm not suggesting anyone to go all in, because that's extremely stressful and you have to build it up with time, like anything. I can't go to the gym and, day one, try all the machines. I will injure myself, like easy into anything in life in general. When you reach to a point where you are aware and you are all in and you speak to those people, you see that they have laser eyes for a reason, right? Because they've gone through different experiences. And I'm not saying it's better or worse. It doesn't matter. It's just a different type of individuals because they want to take control. I say, no, it is my fault. It is my responsibility. And I will free myself no matter what. And when you get into that zone, you don't go back. Like you never cage me back into a 9-to-5 job with a fiat salary. I mean, I would fight for that. I will die. You know what I mean? Because I know what I can do. I'm free. So once you free the cage and you open the cage, the tiger doesn't want to go back in, or whatever the animal, the honey badger in my case. I love the honey badger analogy. Yeah, I don't want to go back in. So whenever you see the light, you cannot unseen it. So freeing yourself mentally to begin with, and people think, oh, I can't, he's lucky. No. There's no luck. There's just hard work. Hence why being a Bitcoiner, meaning you're proof of work. Like, I will build a plan, no matter what you are in life now, single, married, poor, rich, healthy, unhealthy, it doesn't matter. If you do have a plan and if you stick to it, you will be success it's impossible that it's going to happen, right? But you have to stick to it. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. So that's why I love Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is empowering me to be the best version of who I want to be, because it gives me full responsibility. And I understand some people don't want it, and it's fine. Like, I know a lot of friends, they go, no, dude, I don't want my own keys in my own hands with my own money. No, you're crazy. I want to blame the bank. I want to blame the government. I want to blame my manager. I want to blame my wife or my husband. I get it. But if you are in the park of, I'm the guy and I take responsibility, and you will fuck up, just keep that in mind. I mean, I made so many mistakes, but that's how you learn. You learn because you fail and you go over the failure. That's why you learn. Like, no one can know stuff without making mistakes. So again, mistakes are becoming stepping stones for you to scale on your success. And this is what Bitcoin is all about to me. It's a tool that I use to empower myself. And like you said, maybe that's not the answer for you. Maybe it's gold, maybe it's whatever it is. But you have to think about it, because this problem exists and you will be cornered at some point in your life. You cannot escape the fact that they are printing the money that you use to live and to store your energy. You can't escape it. So some people, sadly, will go through a path where they will be given some Bitcoin and they will spend it in stupid things. Other people will fail and lose it into, I think that's going to be, by the way, sorry I'm ranting, but I'm super passionate about this. It's going to be the next challenge for your generation, will be to learn how to not fail for those, give me your Bitcoin, I will give you this much, or send your Bitcoin over here, I will give you that much. Because that's the next step. The next step is going to be, okay, Bitcoin now is valuable. Bitcoin is going up. We understand. So now we want it. So we'll give you 20%. Borrow against your Bitcoin. Send it over there. We'll give you this and that. Careful, because this is the next step. The next step is everyone is going to go after your Bitcoin in one way or another, through scams, to businesses, to ideas. And maybe some are going to be super legit, right? So there's going to be a new market. Fantastic. Temptation is going to come. And I've seen it before. We've seen it with FTX. We've seen it with BlockFi. We had so many examples in the past. And this is going to be amplified because Bitcoin is becoming bigger, which means the pot is going to be larger. People are going to come and build. Hey, I have this thing. I will give you 50% if you borrowed here, and I'll give you this much cash flow, your dream job. You don't have to work, deposit your Bitcoin and live off your Bitcoin forever. Yeah, you lose custody. Okay, and then what? The company goes bust and your Bitcoins are gone. That's the challenge that we will see in the next 10, 20, 30 years. People will want your Bitcoin. So build a shield and protect them with your life. And if you have a chance on passing them to a next generation, please, for the love of God, take time in teaching your kids, your grandkids, or whatever it is, on how to manage money. Because there is no good. If I hand you over $10 million and you have no idea what to do with it, actually, I'm not helping you. I'm damaging you, because then you will experience the luxury of $10 million, which nowadays is not even that much. And then in 2 years, you're broke again. So I will prioritize teaching you how to, maintain or grow even better your pot of cash or assets, whatever it is. And then simultaneously kind of handing you some money, because if I throw some money in there without any system on how to store, use, and growth, most likely you will lose it all, if it makes sense.
Yeah, and it's the other thing people can take from that is even if you're not ready to buy Bitcoin right now, it might be worth at least educating yourself on what Bitcoin is and how to operate with Bitcoin. Because a funny story from me, I won't dox who it is, but a family member bought Bitcoin back in 2014, 2015 and has held it all the way through and sees it as his retirement, but he still doesn't know what Bitcoin is. I found Bitcoin much later than him, but when I'm talking to him, I can tell he still doesn't understand the power of what he's holding. So to your point that you've just really well explained, it's really important to also understand what it is you hold and why it's so powerful, so that if you do inherit Bitcoin in 20, 30 years from grandparents or parents, like Maurizio said, you don't go and spend it on a Lamborghini or a yacht, and then you're back in the same situation again.
No, which is very super well said. And by the way, nothing wrong with a Lamborghini. You can, if you build enough cash flow, right, you can then build a luxury lifestyle, but it's not built on the asset you have, it's built on the cash flow, right? So there's a massive difference there. Sometimes with Da Vinci, we talk about it and we do maybe a Maybach, and people are saying, oh, but you bought a Maybach. Yeah, but with the cash flow. Like, he didn't sell Bitcoin to buy a Maybach. He had a cash flow, and with the cash flow, he's funneling his life. So again, it's part of a plan, right? So nothing wrong in having good things around you. You can buy cars, luxury watches, go on vacations. That's fantastic. But build a system which is going to allow you to keep your asset, have a cash flow, and spend the cash flow. Yeah, I'm all for it. Like, if you want to improve your lifestyle, by the way, there is no point in having, 1,000 Bitcoin in the bank and living with a broken underwear into a cave, right? So it doesn't make any sense to me. So again, once you reach to the point where you have enough, and the enough changes from person to person, learn how to manage it, learn how to have cash coming in your life from your asset. And with that, just go nuts, right? Go buy the Lambos, go and buy the champagnes, go and do whatever you want to do, but do not touch your assets, right? That's what I think it's important to say.
Yeah, and like you said at the start, Rich Dad Poor Dad, for anyone that's interested in finding a place to start and to start learning, is a great book, an easy read. I didn't like reading. It was the first book that I read back to front for a long, long time. And it really starts laying the foundations for a further deeper dive to really open up your eyes to new possibilities that perhaps you felt out of reach, but they're not if you just simply follow a path that's laid out for you in those books. Maurizio, I'm mindful of the time. I really appreciate you jumping on. What I'll do is put your links for your social medias in the description. So Maurizio, like I said at the start, has got an amazing podcast where he interviews great minds across the Bitcoin space and beyond on YouTube. And then he also does a daily live show with Da Vinci, and then his Twitter account that I'll link below as well. Maurizio, have you got any last things that you'd like to say before we finish?
No, thank you. It was so great being a guest, because I'm on the other side. So sorry if I ranted, but I need to learn how to be a guest, right? I don't do very often. So thank you for having me here. And guys, stay tuned, because Finn has a fantastic lineup of guests. So if you want to learn about money and finances and Bitcoin, you want to subscribe now, because I can see this going places. So thank you for having me again.
Thanks, man. We'll speak soon.
Cheers.